Thank you for coming here to Ukraine Forum today. It will be nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. This is my first time in the Ukrainian media. I used to be a journalist too, so I really appreciate what you are doing for Ukraine and for armed forces of Ukraine. I have a great respect for people who especially cover the war and sitting with soldiers and trying to inform society and public opinion and the international partners of the struggle that you are right now going through.
I appreciate that feedback. Well, first of all, the first question that is really interesting for the audience is, given this ongoing, how to say, maybe a row between the government and president around appointing ambassadors, including to Ukraine, due to the fact that President Duda does not approve new ambassadors, you remain in the rank of charge d'affaires for the time being. Does it affect any way your work in Kyiv, and will we be able to see you as a full-blown ambassador to Ukraine after this, so to say, crisis is resolved?
First things first. I would rather start with some major issues rather than the small protocol or speaking about my personal situation. So let me start with this. I came here more than a month ago with a very strong conviction and very strong understanding that Ukraine is going to win this war. And I'm here as a representative of Poland to support this sacred cause of Ukraine, defending its territory, defending its sovereignty, defending its independence against the very brutal and very morally corrupt invasion from your bad neighbor Russia, which is also our bad neighbor. I'm here. I'm former military, so what I felt the most, I mean, what was most important for me, it was to actually to see the Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian defenders, talk to them, and trying to somehow transmit the message from Polish government, from Polish people, from the Polish civil society as well, which I was part of before I came to Ukraine, that we are here with you, we feel for you, we are here for you, and Poland is to support Ukraine, not as long as it takes. This is the cliche saying from the usual words from abroad. We are here to support you to be victorious, to win this war, to prevail, and to stay a strong, democratic, wealthy country in the future transatlantic organizations as our co-partner in this transatlantic democratic environment. So this is my statement. Saying so, I also would like to add that people sometimes accuse me that I speak too much from my personal background, from my personal experience, professional experience. But yes, I think this is the correct tool to use for me as a diplomat. I'm former military. I'm also happen to be former veteran of the few wars of 21st century that Poland participated in Afghanistan, Balkans, Iraq, and other places. And my strongest desire here is actually that Poland would be a leader of the effort to help Ukrainian veterans, people who are right now defending the country, defending the homeland, and soon they will be an important part of the society. I would even say the elite of the society that needs to be taken care of in terms of medical support, all kinds of this stuff that they need on a daily basis, but also to have them as a partners, as a strong factor in the democratic society, as strong as possible. So this is my kind of a very general intention. To your question about again, this is really minor issue for me, Because why is it minor? I feel very strong support from my minister, from Minister Radosław Sikorski, Minister of Foreign Affairs. I have a very good contact with him. He sent me here. He previously sent me to Afghanistan, so right now he sent me to Ukraine, with the understanding that demanding environment like Ukraine right now requires a person with some, I would say, strategic background, military background as well, to understand better how can we support fighting nations. This is what I did previously as a diplomat, and what I'm going to do right now also here in Ukraine. Also, to answer even more in a more detailed manner to your question, I was received beautifully, brilliantly by the foreign ministry, Ukrainian foreign ministry. I met Minister Sybiha. I met then Minister Kuleba before. I feel no obstacles, no problems with working and feeling like a full representative of the country that I represent, my homeland, Poland, in my friendly neighbor country, Ukraine.
Well, speaking of leadership that you mentioned, starting January 1st, Poland is assuming presidency over the EU. And I'm wondering what will be the main priorities of your presidency, and where will Ukraine be on that agenda? And perhaps follow up, will the EU-Ukraine summit be held during that presidency, according to your information?
This is really symbolic time. We used to have our first Polish presidency of European Union was 2011. Sorry. And it was actually this 6 months back then when Ukraine was concluded its association agreement with European Union. It was 2011. So right now, our second presidency that starts in January, people are looking, to kind of repeat the example, very good progress that we made during the 13 years ago. But of course, the situation right now is different in a sense that Ukraine is no longer just associated with the European Union, but it's an aspiring member. It wants to be a part of it. So it's not right now. It's not only about declarations, nice words around it, but rather concrete steps to be taken, to be fulfilled. So Ukraine, in some time, will become a full member of the European Union. Please do remember that example of Poland is actually quite correct here. It took 10 years for us before we started, and then we joined in 2004. So it's a long process. Of course, saying that, I'm not saying that Ukraine will also follow this example of 10 years, but this time we have to make it right, and we have to make concrete steps that would prepare Ukraine to correct its legislation, its whole system, actually to be a member of this economic, political, cultural, democratic family of Europe. We are just about to finish so-called monitoring process, which has started in, I believe it was June this year, by the European Commission. So it probably will end around December. So with our presidency, the monitoring period will be over, and we can start opening so-called clusters or chapters of the accession. The first is most difficult one. It's so-called fundamentals, which include all kinds of the higher value. Democracy, rule of law, freedom of speech, freedom of media, all these things that actually make member states of European, not only a club of economic-oriented countries, but rather the family of the like-minded nations and member states. So we can then cover all these economic issues, transportation, agriculture, all this technical economic thing. Polish example is quite interesting in this regard. It took us a long time, actually, not to prove to our partners that Poland is ready or we are a good pupil in this school of aspiring democratic countries, but actually to really transform the system, so we can kind of survive and flourish in the environment of the European Union. So it's not just a matter of declaration. It's not a matter of summits that people will meet, politicians will meet, shake hands, and that will be over. No, it's really a transformation of the system, transformation of the country. When you join, you might have problems if you don't really fill up the gaps that you had, for instance, as a new member, right?
Accession process regarding the EU is a long and purely bureaucratic process. We understand that joining NATO for Ukraine is more about a political will of all the allies of the organization. We have been receiving major support from NATO, but the formal invitation to NATO is yet to come. Can we expect Poland to become one of the champions of promoting the idea of Ukraine becoming part of this very important alliance?
If there would be an Olympic game in terms of who is the better supporter of Ukraine on its way to NATO, Poland would be definitely one of the on the
pedestal.
On the pedestal, exactly. Probably the first one, maybe with our competitors in this regard from the Baltic states. For us, Ukraine, there is a long-lasting Polish wisdom that is coming. That was formulated and created by Jerzy Giedroyć, Polish politician, exile and opposition member during the communist time. There is no free Poland without free Ukraine. So this is the kind of a foundation stone for our policy. So for us, it's a strategic issue that at some point Ukraine will be not only a strong country on our eastern border, but also a member of the pact and alliance that is truly a miracle of Polish history that happened in 1999. I wish this miracle also would happen in Ukraine, that Ukraine would step from the zone of war to the zone of peace. This is how I treat NATO. There is no war, not a possibility, not a chance of war between the member states. So it's not only a military alliance. This is truly a zone of peace. We were lucky, thanks to our founding fathers of Polish democracy in the 90s, to kind of jump this train and switch the historical sides. For Ukraine, it's much harder because it's much later. It's a different historical situation, and you have a war right now. But I'm very much sure that Ukraine, again, as I said before, it will win the war. It will be a member of NATO, and it will be in the zone of peace that NATO is kind of creating, and this is the umbrella for such a zone. You have great expectations of what's coming in the nearest months when it comes to the possible invitation, possible opening the accession to NATO process. As I said, there is no better advocate in this regard than Poland, because if you just put yourself in our shoes, in our position, this is our vital interest. This is in interest of the Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia as well.
Minister Sikorski recently said that the base, the US base, missile defense base, said to be deployed in Redzikovo, will be able to shoot down not only the, say, Iranian missiles heading toward the US, but also the Russian missiles potentially heading toward Poland. Does this mean that there's any chance that this base, the missiles coming from that base, would be able to shoot down Russian missiles heading toward Poland but over Ukraine? Maybe there could be some decision in this regard made not only within Poland but by NATO in general.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel these vibes?
Redzikovo, what Minister Sikorski said and what he meant is that Redzikovo, it is a US base in Poland, in the northern Poland, it started some time ago, some decade ago. This project started a decade ago as a way of, it was basically designed as a way of shooting down Iranian rockets flying possibly towards United States. That was the original idea behind when George Bush started invented this. It is designed to shoot down ballistic rockets, intercontinental rockets that were in the first place endangering United States. Right now, the transformation of this base is also to shoot down intercontinental or ballistic rockets flying also towards the deeper Europe. It's against these huge rockets, basically, rather than drones or different kinds of. So technically it's something different that you asked. What we can do regarding what is current situation in Ukraine, Kinjals, Ha-35, all these rockets that are destroying Ukraine so badly, which in a very horrible way, flying towards the civilian infrastructure, is that allies can provide more equipment like Patriots, like NASAMS, like these types of anti-air rockets that are currently here and are being used very skillfully by the Ukrainian defenders. So there is a difference of the technical capabilities. The idea of shooting down Russian rockets over Ukraine, I know it has to be explained to probably to the Ukrainian audience. It sounds, well, public in terms of newspaper way, it sounds desired, but technically it's quite actually difficult to achieve. Is the first thing. Technical obstacles are quite important here. On the Polish territory, we just we don't have enough capabilities to protect our own airspace. We are just in the middle of building such a system, multi-layered air defense system. So this is the first technical obstacle. Second is that it has to be a allied decision rather than bilateral one. And that was expressed by the NATO spokesman, US Department of Defense spokesman many times, and by the leaders of NATO, that it has to be allied decisions rather than bilateral one, because, well, it would mean that, for instance, that NATO enters the direct conflict with Russia. I know it's a difficult story here to hear in Ukraine, but it's also important to explain to our viewers that NATO is not in the war with Russia. NATO is supporting Ukraine to the fullest possible way, and will help Ukraine defend its territory as much as possible to the victory.
And another question on defense, considering Poland. Minister Tusk, Prime Minister Tusk announced the start of the East Shield project. to protect Poland's eastern borders from potential aggression. Will its elements appear on the border with Belarus and Russia, or some of them will also emerge on the border with Ukraine? And is Poland taking into account Ukraine's experience in fighting off Russian aggression in building up that East Shield?
East Shield is meant to defend Poland against the possible incursion from Russia and Belarus. The origins of this idea, of this project, is again direct aggression in a sense, especially from the Belarus territory, where Belarusian regime, Mr. Lukashenko regime, is importing migrants from several countries in the Middle East and Africa. He's basically, I mean, it sounds very bad, but he's importing people to invade Polish territory. So that's why we built a so-called barrier between Poland and Belarus. That's why we trying to, and the Eastern Shield is kind of a development of this original idea, to prepare the territory in terms of fortifications, in terms of barriers, in terms of resilience of the local communities, preparing shelters, all that kinds of stuff that is directly drawn from the Ukrainian experience. We observe the horrific example of Bucha and Irpin taught us all in Europe, but especially in Poland, that we just cannot afford murderers and rapists getting into the territory of our country. This is just we cannot spare a single kilometer of the territory, because then the cruelty happens, as we know. So this is our big lesson from the Ukrainian war. So that's why we are spending 10 billion zloty for the next 5 years to build these defenses. By the way, the Finns and Latvians, Lithuanians are doing the same. So it's, but we are trying to do it in a much more robust and sophisticated way.
Turning to defense in Ukraine and Poland's assistance to this end. During a recent visit to Kiev, Foreign Minister Sikorski mentioned the remaining MiG fighter jets still in service with the Polish Air Force that might be handed over to Ukraine. Do you have any information on whether this might happen before year-end?
We are in the process of preparing various donations for Ukraine. Poland donated already spare parts and airplanes themselves, MiG-29, in the past, in the last 2 years. Poland actually was the first to call allies to donate something heavier than javelins, meaning tanks and MiG-29s and other airplanes. So the question right now is how to, this is a military term, gap fillers. The MiG-29s, we have around 10, 15 maybe of these airplanes are still being used as a air defense of Poland. Poland is undergoing immense transformation of our air forces. We are buying new stuff from our partners, F-16s, F-35s, so on. But still, we are in the middle of this process, so we cannot afford losing even those 10 MiG-29s, because we would feel unprotected. Our sky would be unprotected. What we are trying to do, having this strategic goal of supporting Ukraine in mind, we are trying to call our allies, either on bilateral or allied way, to provide us, to fill the gaps that transfer of MiG-29s would create. So basically it means that our allies should send some squadrons of other airplanes to Poland to give us a time to build our own capacity in this sense, in this area, so we can transfer MiG-29s, so much needed for Ukrainian pilots.
We have this initiative to recruit soldiers in Lublin, Ukrainian soldiers, to the Ukrainian army, and Poland undertakes to train them. Do you have any information on when such training could start for the first group of those recruited in Lublin?
This would be really a good question for the Ukrainian diplomats in Poland, because Ukraine as a state is kind of an operator of this project, which means that it's up to Ukrainian authorities in Poland, diplomats as well, but Ukrainian armed forces, actually, and to gather people necessary to fill this, I don't know, battalion, regiment, or whatever size man size it would take in the future. We provide space. We provide, as you mentioned, a place in Lublin as a kind of a meeting point for the possible members of this unit, and hopefully it will go faster, and in a more, the numbers will grow. That's my hope and our hope, because we are ready with trainers, we are ready with equipment, we are ready with facilities to train them. We would like to really have this unit be as big and as best prepared as possible. We already have this so-called Ukrainian, Polish, Lithuanian brigade that has great experience in training thousands, tens of thousands Ukrainian soldiers in Poland.
Oh yeah, the war is in progress and winter is coming, and Poland has been greatly helping Ukraine in terms of energy sustainability. You have been supplying generators, transformers, and equipment to restore power grids. It also supports EU initiatives to help Ukraine shift to sustainable renewables. How do you assess the current role Poland plays in this regard? And maybe you can shed light on some new initiatives to make our energy grid more sustainable in face of those ongoing attacks.
This is a very interesting question, actually, because as you already mentioned, generators, this material help is already flowing from Poland and from other European partners. I mean, European Union treats this possibility, danger of the harsh winter very, very seriously. But it's also a question of what Poland can do extra this current process. So, for instance, we are asking our Ukrainian colleagues in the Ministry of Energy to facilitate export of energy, of the actual current from our power plants, especially the coal power plants. We are urging our Ukrainian partners in the ministry, for instance, to ease the so-called auction system of the energy supplies. And we are looking very much, that they conclude the negotiations necessary in this case as soon as possible. Second thing, when it comes to energy, is again our presidency, where energy safety in Ukraine is one of the three pillars of our goals, of our ambitions during this presidency. Also, we are just about to finish the transformation of Ukrainian grids that can, in the future, can also be synchronized with the European system.
Well, and overall, Poland identified as one of its priorities for the upcoming presidency the full halt of Russia's energy supplies to Europe.
Yes.
So what can be the main, as you see right now, the main challenges on this path?
Well, I'm not the expert in importing resources from Russia, but I'm pretty sure that December or January will be the last month of the gas imports from Russia. There is some remaining amounts of gas being supplied right now. We have to take into consideration that there are countries like Austria, Hungary, Slovakia, especially, that are still kind of relying on the gas supplies from Russia. We have to, as a members of the union, we have to take care of every single market, every single country in this regard. So this is the challenge. But I'm being informed from Poland that it will be a practical goal, to cut the supplies once and for all, and it will really hurt. It will weaken Kremlin.
Returning to politics in general, we are now promoting our military strategy as in the victory plan, as you know, and also on the diplomatic path, we have the peace formula put forward by President Zelensky. Poland has shown strong support for Ukraine on those tracks. How do you assess your role in supporting these two initiatives, and what do you see the prospects for the promotion of the peace formula, especially in the context of preparations for the second peace summit, international summit on peace in Ukraine?
Have you seen Minister Sikorski in Security Council of United Nations?
His speech?
His speech?
Yes.
Yeah, it's about Ukrainian children and crimes against humanity that Russia commits in Ukraine, especially in terms of kidnapping kids, brainwashing them, and even possibly using them as a foot soldiers of of Kremlin. So you have the public messaging in this sense is. You will not find a better advocate than Minister Sikorski with his eloquency, presenting the case of the children, civilian victims of the rocket attack. Just recently, we had this horrific couple months back Lviv attack, when the beautiful family just died and the father was left alone, burying his 3 daughters and beautiful wife. And we are speaking about it. We are not only speaking about it, we are sending prosecutors. There is a very robust cooperation between our prosecutors and the General Prosecutor of Ukraine in this sense. When it comes to victory plan, we already covered, I think, extensively Ukraine joining NATO, which again, and it has to be repeated on and on, that Poland wants Ukraine to be in NATO, to have Ukraine in NATO. So the first point is already we are the best supporter of this idea. We support bringing war criminals to justice. We are supporting, the most fantastic thing we can do as a Western society is to actually finance defense of Ukraine with Kremlin money, which is the most actually quite funny idea that we will use this money as a West against this brutal invasion.
Another question of support, another area of support is demining. We know that nearly 30% of our territory is contaminated with mines and UXOs, and Poland does support Ukraine in this initiative to clear our land through technical financial assistance, including through transfer of special equipment and offering training to Ukrainian sappers. Also, you participate in international initiatives aimed at clearing territories and mines. Does Poland plan to expand such a support?
Again, it's quite difficult to demine the country that is currently suffering such a brutal and truly First World War scale invasion. So demining is something that, as far as I know, is something rather of the peacetime rather than wartime. So it's quite difficult. But I'm proud to say that when you had this so-called counteroffensive in 2023, some of the demining system that was being used to some extent successfully by Ukrainian armed forces was coming from Poland, from the Polish donation. When it comes to civilian demining, because this is something different than the military operation, we are supporting Ukrainian firefighters. And there is also a very robust, very deep assistance from our firefighters to your brave people. Well, it's not only demining; it's also fighting with the outcome of the aerial attacks and so on.
In an interview with Ukrinform here, former ambassador of Ukraine to Poland, Vasyl Zvarich, he mentioned that both Poland and Ukraine drew the right conclusions from last year's situation about the blocking of
Yes.
the Ukrainian border by Polish farmers protesting in Poland outside those checkpoints. Now in early October, our customs officials were tipped by their colleagues in Poland that local farmers might stage another protest action on that side of the border. How do you see, as officials, how do Polish authorities see such intentions?
I know it's not the best manners I am showing, but I'm striking back with my question. Did anything like that happen? I mean, was there any blockade of the border, or was there any incident on the bigger scale rather than manifestation of people who have a right to manifest? So nothing like that happened this year. Of course, I'm not saying that it will not happen, because it's a free country and the people have a right to protest. Sometimes they protest violently, like we saw last year ago, and prosecution and police stepped in, and the process, the legal process in this regard is still continuing. But again, this year, question to you: did it happen?
No.
No. Important thing happened, but important thing happened February this year, when Prime Minister Tusk announced that everything that could stop the flow of humanitarian or military equipment would be treated as an action against critical infrastructure.
Another point of the diplomatic and strategic track is nuclear security and nuclear safety. Vladimir Putin has repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons, in particular, hinting at possible strikes, including at Poland. So this causes concern in the region and beyond. In addition, we have the ongoing occupation of the Zaporizhia NPP, which poses additional risks to Ukraine and the whole of Europe, given the radiation risks. How does Poland intend to respond to these threats? How is it responding to these threats? And what steps would you propose to put pressure on Russia to this end, including demilitarize nuclear facilities, nuclear energy facilities in Ukraine? Have
you seen these clowns on Russian TV shooting virtual rocket on London, on Warsaw?
Oh, yeah.
You've seen them. So these are the propagandists, really clowns, making stupid and brutal propaganda. So it's one thing. When you hear something like that coming from the official mouths, like Mr. Putin, Mr. Ryabkov, Mr. whatever, this guy who is always drunk, deputy president.
We know.
You know him. So either he's a clown too, or is he making real threats? At both situations, what we are reacting is we are remaining calm, and we are saying that we are part of the biggest, strongest, nuclear-capable alliance in the history of humankind, and we are not to be threatened by anyone. We know the history of Cold War. We know how close it was to the nuclear annihilation. And so we are not, neither me nor any Polish politician would like to join hands with clowns and discussing these things. it's a really low level of politics, and we are above it, sky high.
Let's turn to history. We have this thing going on between Ukraine and Poland on different levels. Unfortunately, it went to the political level. This complicated historical question, the Volyn tragedy, has had an impact on relations and bilateral relations. In Poland, the issue of exhumations of Polish victims of the Volyn tragedy is being discussed really actively right now. And some say, including at the official level, that this issue will directly influence the agenda of the EU accession process, the relations, how to make sure that this complicated part of our history, which isn't black and white, does not influence modern politics, especially considering that Russia has always exploited things like that to pit nations, friendly nations, against each other.
Well, Volhynia question. It's always haunts our history and haunts our also our current relation. And I'm the last person who would say, let's just leave it to historians, because historians failed, I would say, in this on the both sides to reach the agreement. It's a question for politicians. It's a question for historians, it's a question for civil society, for the ordinary people, for journalists as well, to talk about this issue in a serious, non-partisan, non-emotional way. Although I know how hard it is, because it is an emotional thing to imagine what happened in Volhynia, in what happened in our history that is going much longer than Volhynia. Period, the Volhynia crime in the past. So I'm not skipping this question. I know how important it is. Our approach right now, which was formulated by the Minister Sikorski on his recent visit, is that it's not only a historical question, it's a question of the civilizational question. It's a Christian question, Christian issue, religious issue, to bury the dead, to have a proper burial, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim burial, Jewish burial of the people that were murdered in the Second World War. So this is our take, our approach to this issue. You remember, let me refer to our discussion before about the European Union being not a club of economic-oriented countries, but rather cultural, civilizational oriented countries. If you imagine something like the West, yes, this is what we were trying to enter in the 90s, what you are trying to enter right now, which you are entering right now. This is the West, the collective Russians say. I hate this term, collective West, but this is it's not only a club of countries. This is the idea based, well, you have to say it, on the Christian values as a Christian history of the Europe in the broadest sense. So we treat ability to search and to bury the dead as a Western value thing, which should be achieved as soon as possible. Second thing is the commemoration of the history, right? So when the historians on both sides say that we have this commemoration, you have that commemoration, I mean, you have your national heroes. Okay, I would say I'm not choosing Ukrainian national heroes. I rather value heroes that are currently being created by this war, rather than referring to your past heroes from the past. So this is my take. the heroes of Ukraine, the true heroes of Ukraine, are being created right now on the battlefield, defending the country, and I want to support them. I feel for them. I'm the former military, and I understand what it's to fighting for your homeland. So these are the heroes of Ukraine I really cherish and value. When it comes to history, to commemoration of the history, well, this is a question of emotions. When emotion speaks, well, the mind, the brain sleeps sometimes, so that's why we are trying to separate this issue. And we know that the effort must be, in this sense, must be done by both sides. And probably we are ready to participate in such a effort. But again, it's a different story of monuments, tables, words being written on these monuments, and a different story of the proper Christian burial, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or atheist, that those remains deserve.
Well, as you probably heard, the Ukrainian National Institute of Remembrance has appealed to the cabinet to allocate 1 million hryvnias for search works to find and exhume the remains of the bodies of the Polish victims of that tragedy, according to those appeals from Polish citizens. And in your opinion, can this initiative by the Ukrainian side be the first step on the way that you're talking about, on the way to achieving understanding?
We hear that there will be a Excel form that needs to be filled, and then we can put it in the plan for the next year. Okay, we already heard that previously, and we are just waiting for the. It's not like I understand that exhumations are not being blocked here. And this is a tricky part on some Ukrainian YouTubers that are claiming that we are not blocking exhumations, and I understand, I get that. What you are blocking is the search for the remains, and this is what we would really like to be lifted and allow families to search for their relatives, to properly bury them, and kind of again, as I said before, this is a sacred thing to do especially for the family. So we will see. I hope for this step to be taken, and then we will have this discussion again and again and again and again until we find ourselves in the European Union, which is the great equalizer of the historical memory. And the thing that made European Union possible, look, Poles and Ukrainians, very heated history, very troubled history. But look at Germans and French, look at Germans and Poles, look at Germans and Jews. There are really murders in our history, in our collective European history. The history is full of blood, but yet these people, including Poles and Germans, were at some point able to overcome it, and we have still problems with that. I mean, it's not like German-Polish history is just resolved. It takes time, obviously, but the civilizational fundament of the European Union is that we value the same. We cherish the same values, Western values, Christian values, Muslim, Jewish values, and so on and so on.
Well, looking at modern history, the start of the full-scale invasion, Poland has demonstrated immense support for Ukrainians, especially for those fleeing the war who were forced to flee their homes, accepting so many displaced Ukrainians. For some reason, I saw the data from Polish CBOS Center showing that, for example, on the issue of accepting more displaced Ukrainians, there was 94% people supporting that idea in 2022. Now it's 54%. What do you think might have caused such a plunging trend?
No, it would probably take 30-something million answers to to properly answer this question. If someone tells me that I have enough of Ukraine, I would say, well, Ukrainians, they don't have enough of the war. they are fighting it. If someone says that I'm tired with Ukraine, I respond, they cannot afford, Ukrainians cannot be tired with this war. They are fighting existential war, so we have to support them. So there are voices, of course, that create this public opinion slips. It jumps from depending on the situation. I don't have an answer for, I'm not really in favor of commenting of the public opinions. What I know, what I hear, what I feel here in Ukraine from Ukrainians is great words about what happened in the last 2 years from Poland, from the Polish side. It depends on whom you are asking. When I talk to the Polish NGO supporting veterans here, psychologists, brilliant young ladies that are coming here working with Ukrainian veterans and their families, I don't see any slip of effort, slip of support for Ukraine. So it's if you just take a picture of, and you say, oh, there's a CEBOS poll that's showing that it used to be 90, right now it's what, 55 or 56 or whatever. Okay, but I work with people, I connect with people who are working tirelessly to support Ukraine in many senses. I'm the supporter of Ukraine, for God's sake, and I'm not tired with that. I don't have any anti-Ukrainian or whatever opinion. So look at such people rather than just trying to assess mathematical numbers.
And I wanted to learn a little bit more about you mentioned the Veterans Initiative, that you're really caring about their future, their well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being. Are there any NGOs set up to this end, or is this a government initiative? Many.
Well, I'm a governmental guy, so I would rather start with the so-called, the name of the NGO is, it's a governmental NGO called Solidarity Fund, which is a part of our foreign ministry, which operates the European funds, and which is the only one institution in Ukraine here. There are representatives here in Kyiv, which are actually working on some form of model, systematic solution to the veterans' problems. We started in Rivne Oblast. We are just about to open the veteran centers in Zhytomyr. Few other oblasts, Dnipropetrovskaya, in Dnipro there will be another bunch of number like 4 or 5 local on the level of Hromada veteran centers where veterans can come, get help, medical help with prosthetics and so on, psychological help and so on. So this is the FSM, Solidarity Fund that is operating under foreign ministry. We have NGOs. I mentioned already these beautiful ladies from Volny Vybor, sorry. And this is the Ukrainian NGO working with Polish NGO from Wrocław that is actually sponsoring the Volny Vybor here in Ukraine. The psychologists mostly, not psychiatrists, working here. PAH, Polish Humanitarian Action, many other. Center of Veterans, this is our MOD institutions also supporting them. So the list, I know the list actually by heart, because next week I'm going to Warsaw to participate in a so-called Veterans Forum in Warsaw. So the list of invitees from Polish side, it's quite long, and of the NGOs and governmental institutions actually trying to focus on this particular issue here, because this is the noble thing to do for Poland, especially with our own veteran experience. This is the noble and humanitarian thing to do, but it's also it's a beautiful thing because it opens many spaces that you can work with. It's an economic issue, for instance. There are companies here looking for people to work in these companies. Why don't we train and hire veterans for that? So it's an economic aspect of it. There is all kinds of social aspect to it, social political aspect to it. If you are helping veterans, you are really creating people who understand the value of the Polish-Ukrainian relations. So I'm so excited about it, because it's not only a medical thing to support veterans. It's also something much bigger on the economic, on the social level. Many possibilities here, which I'm really excited to support and tirelessly work on in my next, hopefully, 4 years.
Well, thanks for doing that. That's, as you said, it's a really noble thing to do, and we do agree that veterans are the elite.
Yes.
The elite of the current time and the elite of the future of
yes.
Ukraine. So yeah, thanks again for that. And thank you for coming here to Conform. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.